So, good morning, friends. Last class, we saw the need for analog to digital conversion and digital to analog conversion. And today we are going to discuss the methods of A to D converter or A to D conversion, and thereafter methods of D to A conversion. Just to quickly uh, recapitulate what we said yesterday. In our mechatronic systems, the sensors and transducers generate analog signals. Now, the next block in the mechatronic system is from transducer, the signal goes to signal conditioning system. And thereafter, that conditioned signal goes to the actuator, or the conditioned signal goes to the controller, and from controller the signal goes to actuator. So this is the flow of signals. Now, as we discussed yesterday, these analog signals, suppose these analog signals are to be given to a microprocessor or a microcontroller, which is our control element. And the microprocessor microcontroller can receive only digital signals, but my sensor transducers are generating analog signals. So these analog signals are needed to be converted into digital form. So that's how ADC is required. And after the signal is converted into digital form, this microprocessor or microcontroller receives that signal, processes it as per our requirement, as per my control logic, as per my sequential logic. Whatever is my process requirement, the microprocessor processes that digital signal and gives out a digital output. Now, this digital output is needed to be given, or this output is needed to be given to the actuator. Now, the actuator that I have, it can work only on analog signals, let us say. So, whatever signal is given out by microprocessor and microcontroller, which is in digital form, this cannot be used by my actuator. So, actuator works on analog signal. So, there, the signal, that is the digital signal that is coming out of a microprocessor or microcontroller, this is to be converted into analog form. So that my actuators, let it be a hydraulic cylinder or electro-hydraulic cylinder, let it be an electric motor, maybe DC motor, stepper motor, AC motor, synchronous motor, whatever is my actuator, that actuator can work on analog signal only. So here, from microprocessor to the actuator, I need one D to A converter. So this is how we require ADC and DAC. That's what we discussed in the last class. Let us go to the ADC methods. Before going into ADC methods, let us quickly brush up. What are these digital signals? What are these binary numbers? Quickly, we already done it, but we'll refresh it quickly. The binary system is based on just two symbols or two states, that is 0 and 1. So this is possibly corresponding to 0 volt or 5 volt DC signals. These are termed as binary digits. By and its part is combined and it becomes bit. So 0 and 1, the representation in the form of two states, 0 and 1 state, is called as bit or a binary digit. When a number is represented by the system, the digit position in the number indicates the weight attached to each digit. Remember, even in your decimal system, suppose number 1000 is there. So here also each digit has got some weightage. The first digit, even in digital numbers, is 0. So these 4 digits are there. 0 number corresponds to some element in the form of power of 10. Power of 10. So the second digit, power of 10, third digit, power of 10, fourth digit, power of 10. So we have the base power of 10. So that is my decimal system. In binary system, once again, I will be having representation of numbers in the form of zeros and one only. Unlike in decimal, decimal we have 0 to 9 as the numbers used. Here in binary system, I'll be using zeros and ones. So, and even in this binary number, whatever is the number, let us say 1010, we have each digit has got some weighted value. Like my decimal number. Decimal number had a weighted value in the form of powers of 10. In binary numbers, we have the digit having the weighted value in the form of powers of 2. So this is binary number representation. So when a number is represented by this binary system, the digit position in the number indicates the weight attached. Please be attentive. Don't read right now. Just be attentive. The digit position in the number indicates the weight attached to each digit, the weight increasing by a factor of 2. This is very important as we proceed from right to left. As we proceed from right to left, like our decimal system only. So the rightmost digit is my bit 0 or binary digit 0, which corresponds to 2 to the power 0. Second from right is bit 1, third from right is bit 2, third from right is bit 3. So we have the increasing powers of 10, 10 to the power 2 to the power 0, 2 to the power 1, 2 to the power 2, 2 to the power 3, etc., etc. as the number goes on increasing. So just as an example, the decimal number 15, the decimal number 15 is 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8, that is 3 plus 4, 7 plus 8, 15. So 1 corresponds to 2 to the power 0, isn't it? So my bit 0 is existing because there is one number corresponding to bit 0, that 2 to the power 0 is 1. Now second from right, bit 1, 2 to the power 1 is 2. Third bit, 2 to the power 2 is 4. And third bit, sorry, 0, first, second, third bit, 2 to the power 3 is 8. So here what happens is, whether this will be 1 or 0 will correspond to whether I have some value corresponding to 2 to the power 0 or not. If I have got 0 here, there will not be any 2 to the power 0 term. So I'll be having 0 there as the initial digit. Getting the point? So I have a valid number 1 corresponding to 2 to the power 0. This is 1. Second number 2 to the power 1. Yes, 2 to the power 1. Second bit is also existing. First 0th bit is existing, first bit is existing, second bit is existing, and third bit is existing. Isn't it? The total is 15, and that number corresponding to this, the binary number corresponding to this, as 2 to the power 0 exists, 1, 2 to the power 1 exists, 1, 2 to the power 2 exists, 1, 2 to the power 3 exists, 1. So I have the decimal number representation of 15 as 1111 in the binary system. So I have 1111 as the binary number representation for decimal number 15. So in a binary number, the bit 0, the rightmost bit, is termed as the least significant bit, that is LSB. Rightmost term corresponding to bit 0 is termed as least significant bit. This we already discussed while we studied encoders initially, if you remember. So least significant digit is the rightmost digit, and the leftmost or the highest bit, is most significant bit, MSB. So leftmost or the highest bit is the most significant bit, and rightmost bit is the LSB, that is least significant bit. So this thing we need to know. The combination of bits to represent a number is termed as a word. So a binary word, right? The combination of the bits is termed as a word. Thus, 1111, which is corresponding to decimal number 15, is a 4-bit word. Such a word could be used to represent the size of a signal. The term byte is used for a group of 8 bits, 8 binary digits. Here we have a 4-bit word. So I will have 8-bit word also. So wherein I'll be having 8 binary digits. Like here we have 4 binary digits. So that 8-bit word is called as 1 byte. And it goes on. 1024 of these bytes make it 1 kilobyte. So likewise, you go on increasing the number, kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte. Okay. So telling you about the numbers, or telling you about the binary digits involved in the signal. So this is a brief recap. You must be knowing it. We wanted to refresh it for our further studies. Let us come back to our ADC. Excuse me. So just be attentive. We are going to study the ADC, that is analog to digital conversion. We know what is analog signal. Analog signal is a signal which is varying continuously with time. So this is the analog signal. This is typically a sinusoidal signal, right? The signal is constantly varying with respect to time. So this is one form of analog signal. I can have a ramped signal as well, though the signal which is continuously increasing with time. That is my ramp signal. So that is also analog signal. This is a sinusoidal signal. In sinusoidal, I may have some exponential functions also. I may have logarithmic functions also. So the functional variations may differ. The fact of the matter is that this signal is continuously varying with respect to time. So this is my analog signal, right? Now this analog signal, which is a sinusoidal signal, is to be converted into a digital signal form. Now what the concept says, the ADC converter, what it does is it receives this analog signal. Once again, as we discussed in modulation, a clock is there, a clock which is a clock pulse generator. It will keep on generating pulses at regular intervals of time. So that pulse generator will be there, that clock would be there, which will be constantly generating pulses of certain value, certain magnitude. So this pulse frequency can be adjusted. Okay. So these constant pulses are constantly generated. Now this is superimposed, or rather this analog signal is superimposed by these pulses, right? So that is called as, for a given duration of time, maybe some milliseconds, these pulses are just sampling my analog signal. This analog signal, okay, this much analog signal is sampled for a certain period of time. So how it is sampled? My clock generated pulses will sample and hold that analog signal. Now what is this clock signal? Clock signal is in the pulse form. So when this is superimposed on this, so this analog signal is, so to say, chopped into pieces, depending upon how many pieces, depending upon the clock frequency that I have. If I got larger frequency, I'll be having smaller chops of this analog signal. Now, this is one representation of a sinusoidal signal. Please be attentive. This is the representation of a sinusoidal signal. So as I said, I can have a ramp signal also. I can have a ramp signal. Okay, I'll just have some annotation. Okay, so I can have a ramp signal as well. That is a ramp signal. The ramp signal is like a slope. What is the meaning of a ramp? A ramp is nothing but when you take your vehicle for washing in the service station, whatever slope that you have, that is the ramp. Gadi ramp or gere. So take it on a ramp. So what is this ramp? A ramp is nothing but a slope. Yeah, this is the sloping signal, continuous line, sloping signal. Now this signal is continuously increasing with respect to time. So I can have a ramp signal, or I can have a step signal, I can have an impulse signal, I can have sinusoidal signal. Okay, in this case it is a sinusoidal signal. What I said, now this clock which is generating the pulsed output, it will chop down this analog signal into number of pulses, right? So this is the sampled signal. So what happens is the signal has come for certain duration, it is captured, right? And then it is chopped, and this chopped signal is sampled and held. This will be studying later, sampling and holding. Now what has happened? I have chopped the signal, I have sampled the signal. Now this signal will be converted. See, this is a continuously varying part. This will be converted based on the average amplitude of this pulse. Okay, so this is what you see. Corresponding to this portion of the analog signal, I'll be having one pulse of this magnitude. Corresponding to next portion of this analog signal, I'll be having this pulse portion. Okay, I'll have zero output for this pulse, for this part of my analog signal. Then I'll be having corresponding to this chopped part, I'll have a pulse of this magnitude. Likewise, this analog signal is chopped down into digital signal. This is how my analog signal is converted into digital signals or pulsed signals. Well, these are approximate methods. I will not have exact replica of the analog signal, but by increasing the clock frequency, I can make it very close to the actual analog signal form. Okay, if the frequency is lower, what will happen? These pulses will be at larger distances. So what might happen? My conversion of this analog signal into this chop signal, as we'll be seeing later on, will not be the exact replica. So for that, I should have appropriate clock frequency for this A to D conversion. That's what this block diagram says, friends. Input, which is the analog signal, it is sampled and held, and then analog A to D conversion takes place. That analog signal is converted into digital signal. This is a simple block diagram representation. This is in general what happens in A to D conversion. D to A conversion, the opposite will happen. It will receive the digital signal. It will receive a digital signal, and then it will be converted into analog form. Okay, let us move forward. Okay, this is written in some words. Okay. Okay. So quickly we'll read out. The procedure used is that, please be attentive. A clock supplies regular time signal pulses to the A to D converter, and every time it receives a pulse, it samples the analog signal. एक sample घेतली म्हणत नाही का आपण, lot मधली एक sample घेतली. So the part of the analog signal is sampled. The figure A illustrates analog to digital conversion. That's what we saw. Figure B shows analog signal. Figure C, clock signal, and the resultant of the sampling is a series of narrow pulses that is shown in figure D. The sample and hold unit is then used to hold each sampled value until the next pulse occurs. So, the bakisa analog signal is not taken. Well, this time is very small. Don't think that I'm processing the analog signal, waiting for some minutes, and then I'm processing the next analog signal. No, the time runs into microseconds and nanoseconds. So it happens so fast. The sampling and holding, it happens so fast. We don't even realize that this conversion is taking place. So with the blink of the eye, I have the digital conversion. But actually it is taking some finite time. Okay. The sample and hold unit is necessary because the ADC requires a finite amount of time, maybe in microseconds. But finite time is required. The time that is this termed as conversion time to convert the analog signal into digital one. Though the time is very small, that's what we don't sense it, we don't feel it. But some time is required in sampling and holding unit. Let us going for this. We already see this. Let us see one importance of this sampling frequency. As I said earlier, effect of sampling frequency. This is a sinusoidal analog signal that we have. Please be attentive. This analog signal we have. Now, this signal is sampled by using a sampling signal. What is the sampling signal? As I said, the clock generating pulses of defined magnitude. Okay, so this is the sampling signal. Now, this signal, as you can see, in a finite time, I have got so many pulses. So the sampling frequency is a bit higher. So now when this is superimposed on this, what happens is I have smaller chops of my analog signal. So ultimately what I get is what you can see, a sort of pulse train which is more or less similar to my analog signal, more or less. Though I have got these sharp edges, or it is next to a square wave type of a thing, but the peaks are similar, the transitions are similar, and the lows are similar, right? The inflection points are also similar. So if I got somewhat better sampling frequency, I have got good replica of my analog signal. But on the other hand, if the sampling frequency is low, as you can see, the pulse frequency is low. So in the given finite time, I've got only 2 pulses that are coming. Now when that is superimposed on my analog signal, what might happen? So when this clock signal is intercepting my analog signal somewhere here, right? So this corresponds to that signal. It is chopping it somewhere here. And the next signal is chopping my way somewhere here. Please be attentive, somewhere here. So these are the 2 chops. Now, when I connect these 2 chops, what happens? My original signal is a waveform like this. But what is the replica that I am getting? Maybe it's a similar wave, but it has got phase difference, isn't it? And it is not even the exact replica also, right? So it is a distorted output that I'll be getting if the sampling frequency is lower, sampling frequency is lesser. Well, people have worked a lot on this and they have come out with Nyquist, scientist Nyquist has worked a lot on this, and he has suggested that the sampling frequency should be at least twice that of signal frequency. So that is what, so minimum twice should be the sampling frequency, so that I can have close approximation of analog signal into digital signal. Otherwise, what I get is a distorted or a false converted signal. This is called as alias of a signal. Alias. Do you know the word aliasing? Aliasचं सिंपल उदाहरण म्हणजे आपलं टोपण नाव असतं. Maybe the proper name is Vishwambar, but the nickname is Baburao. So Vishwambar alias Baburao, alias is not same but similar. आपलं टोपण नाव. तसं what happens is the meaning, I told you the meaning of the word alias. So that word is used here. So if I don't have proper sampling frequency, what I get is a false signal. This false signal is called as aliasing effect. Aliasing effect. Now once again I need to have some more electronic circuit which will do the anti-aliasing. म्हणजे distortion आहे ते काढून टाकायचं काम करावं लागेल. So this is because of what? Because of inappropriate clock frequency, inappropriate sampling frequency. I'll be getting aliasing effect. I'll be getting false signal conversion effect if I got lesser sampling frequency. So effect of sampling frequency is very important, because while designing any A to D converter, the clock that I'm going to select should have appropriate sampling frequency, minimum twice the analog signal. That's what is written here. Let us quickly go through it. Sampling frequency, when the signal, please be attentive, when the signal is reconstructed from the samples, when the signal is reconstructed from the samples, it is only when the sampling rate is at least twice that of the highest frequency in the analog signal. It is only when the sampling rate is at least twice that of the highest frequency in the analog signal that the sample gives original form of the signal. If the sampling rate is at least twice that of the highest frequency in the analog signal, that the sample gives the original form of signal. This criterion is known as Nyquist criterion or Shannon's sampling theorem. When the sampling rate is less than twice the highest frequency of the analog signal, what happens? The reconstruction can represent some other analog signal. माझं original signal सारखं मला signal मिळणार नाही, reconstructed signal. Some other analog signal, some distorted signal. We obtain a false image of the real signal. This is termed as aliasing. Even CAD/CAM मध्ये शिकताना तुम्ही aliasing and anti-aliasing शिकला असाल. If you remember, while designing, while using CAD software, any of the solid modeling software, there is one tool, aliasing and anti-aliasing part in 3D graphics. This term you must have heard. So aliasing is falsification of the original signal. So this we need to avoid. So we should select appropriate sampling frequency. So this is the importance of selecting appropriate sampling frequency. So sampling frequency should be selected as per Nyquist criteria or Shannon's criteria. This is what we said. What he said? The sampling frequency should be at least twice that of the analog signal frequency. Okay. We are going to study 3 methods of analog to digital conversion. That is, first is successive approximation method. Second is ramp method of A to D conversion. There is one more sub method, extension of ramp method. There is dual ramp method that will not be studied. That ramp ADC and then direct ADC or flash ADC. These 3 A to D conversion methods will be studying in the next class. We shall stop for today.